Yo! What's up, YouTube? It's your boy John from Project Ellsworth. Today I'm with you in response to being tagged by H&S Collectibles for this Stephen King tag video that's going around. So, let's get to it. It's good to be the king. So the first question is, do you like Stephen King? Do you read his books? I love Stephen King. Of course I like Stephen King. I think that Stephen King is one of the modern day masters of horror. I think that he is incredibly important in everything horror related, through his writings, through his movies, through his short stories, just the body of work that Stephen King has produced throughout his life since the 70s, or dating back to the 70s, I should say, is ridiculous. Who has written more than Stephen King has? And it's not just throwing stuff to the wall to see what sticks. It's actually quality work. I used to read a ton of Stephen King books. The first book that I ever read in my life, believe it or not, was The Stand. I started off big. I went with The Stand. Pardon me. Absolutely thought that was the coolest thing in the world, and that started me down the path of becoming a reader. So yes, I do like Stephen King, and yes, I can't say I read his books, but I will say that I have read several of his books. Somewhere along the line, I stopped reading fiction for whatever reason. Alright, number 2. How and when did you discover King? What was the first book that you read, or what was the first movie you saw? So definitely the first book that I ever read was The Stand. Absolutely, loved it. I thought it was cool as hell. The first movie that I ever saw was Carrie. I saw Carrie when I was very young, younger than I should have been, watching Carrie. And that movie, I've said on several videos on this channel, Carrie is one of the movies that definitely is responsible for me becoming the horror fan that I am today. I would say Carrie, Phantasm, Halloween, The Exorcist. There's several movies from that time period, from the mid to late 70s, that are definitely responsible for me being a horror fan. Absolutely love Carrie. Alright, next up, overall favorite book or movie, or top 3 if you can't narrow it down. Favorite Stephen King book is probably Different Seasons. I really like Different Seasons a lot. I'm also a very big fan of The Shining. Absolutely. I'm trying to avoid answering The Shining on all of these questions. The Shining and The Shawshank Redemption, they're easy, but Different Seasons, that's where Shawshank Redemption came from. As far as, what was the rest of that question? So favorite book, I'll say it's probably The Shining, but Different Seasons is also a favorite of mine. Cujo is friggin' spectacular book. Let's see, what was the other part of that? Favorite movie? How do I not say The Shining here? It's The Shining or The Shawshank Redemption are definitely my favorites, but I will say, for the sake of being different, Cujo, Carrie are both very, very, I'm fond of both of those movies. Very, very much so. It Chapter 1, oh my goodness. Alright, let's see. Favorite film adaptation. I think that covers that. I like The Shining. I know a lot of people say talk about how different it is from the book. It's very different from the book, but it's a fantastic movie. Let's see. I feel like these are kind of repetitive. Least favorite film adaptation, and how do you feel about Maximum Overdrive? So my least favorite, I agree with Cody. I didn't like The Stand that came out years ago. I know that they just recently remade The Stand on CBS with Whoopi Goldberg. But I would say my answer is probably The Dark Tower. And that's not to say that I didn't think that movie was alright. I thought it was alright. I don't think it was great. I thought that Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba did a fine enough job in that movie. But how do you cram that much writing into a 2-hour movie. It's literally impossible to do that without being able to just shoot holes through it. I know that I read a while back that there were talks of Ron Howard being involved with directing Dark Tower movies, The Gunslinger and The Drawing of Three and all that kind of, the Songs of Susanna, all of the books from the Dark Tower. And what I read was it was supposed to be movies, and it was supposed to be like theatrical release movies, made-for-TV movies. There were talks of miniseries, but there were going to be all these different formats, but they were all going to tie together, and Ron Howard was going to be involved with that project. I don't know whatever happened to that. I would love to see that happen. I am a fan of the Dark Tower series. I never finished it, but I know I read either the first 4 or 5 of them, and I thought they were really, really good. I would love to see that come to be. I think eventually something will happen with that series. It has to, right? But I only hope that it's done before, while Stephen King is still here. It's a pretty tall task to do all of that cinematography and creating a movie and something that's going to cover all those books. That is what I would like to see. The Dark Tower was cool, but I think it could be a hell of a lot cooler. Thoughts on Maximum Overdrive? I hadn't seen Maximum Overdrive in so many years that I couldn't tell you when the last time I watched Maximum Overdrive actually was. So I got up the other morning because I was tagged in this video and specifically made it a point to sit my ass on the couch and watch Maximum Overdrive. My thoughts on Maximum Overdrive are, it's cool. It's exactly what you think it is when you have cars coming to life and killing people. It was fun. Young Emilio Estevez. It felt like that time period. It had that typical Stephen King dialogue and feel to it. Maximum Overdrive's cool. All right, let's see what's up next. Question number 6. Book or story that should be adapted but hasn't yet. All right. I actually looked into something the other day, and I mentioned it in my mukbang video that aired yesterday. Actually, it's airing today, but when you see this, it will be the world of YouTube and scheduling. The breathing method. The book that I mentioned earlier, Different Seasons, had 4 stories in it. One was Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption. One was Apt Pupil. And one was The Body, which we all know as Stand By Me. And the fourth story in that book was called The Breathing Method. And I actually wrote this answer down and then was researching other Stephen King stuff in there and actually went to IMDb and saw that has been announced. The Breathing Method is going to be made. I don't remember the very, very specific details of that book, of that story, but what I remember, and without giving too much away, is it's got something to do with a pregnant woman and the necessity to keep her breathing. And that's all I'm going to say. If you haven't read it, it's a pretty good one. That whole book's good. Freaking Apt Pupil is amazing, and I never hear anybody talking about it. We all know The Shawshank Redemption. We all know Stand By Me. Apt Pupil should have some more attention on it. That movie's fantastic. So's the book. The story's awesome. All right, where are we at here? All right, so short answer, The Breathing Method. Number 7, one of his films or TV adaptations that could use a do-over. Well, I guess that would be where I would say The Dark Tower, right? I mean, isn't that the same answer? I would say it's got to be The Dark Tower. Book or story that hasn't been adapted yet. I guess for something, here's another one that hasn't been adapted yet. Are you familiar with From a Buick 8 or A Buick 8? I read that book a while ago, and that's like another like crazy stuff coming out of the trunk of Buick. It's pretty cool. That's another one. I read it so long ago I don't remember the details, but that was actually pretty cool. There you go. Adapt that. All right, let's see. I've completely lost track of where I am here. Number 7, The Dark Tower is my answer for number 7. One of the films or adaptations that could use a do-over. That's my answer, is The Dark Tower. So number 8. Characters from a book or movie that you could most relate to. Well, as somebody who was not the most popular kid when he was in school, I mean, I dealt less with it when I got a little bit older. When I was in high school, I grew. So I wasn't bothered nearly as much as I was when I had not grown. I used to get picked on a lot because I was a heavy metal fan and a horror fan and I had long hair and all that kind of stuff. So my mind immediately went to the Losers Club from It. I definitely could relate to them kids. I've been those kids, and it sucks a lot to be that kid. I was also on the other end of that, where I grew up and I was able to defend myself a little better. But when you're a little tiny guy and people mess with you, it's not a lot of fun. All right, so next up, number 9, character that you love to hate. Cody's answer was immediately my answer. Percy from the Green Mile. That dude was a scumbag. Very easy to hate. But I think that the one that I would go with here would be Norton, the warden from the Shawshank Redemption. That guy was a straight up dirtbag. He had that dude killed, Tommy, I believe was his name. He had Tommy killed in that movie. He did everything that he could to bury Andy and not let him out. He was just an extremely unsavory character. He had the heavy set dude killed at the beginning of the movie. It's just that he's just what a god. The guy's portrayal of that character was fantastic, but the character himself was just a scumbag. All right, number 10. A Newbie's Guide to King, where would you start? I guess different seasons, I would say, is where I would start. Don't start the way that I started with The Stand, because if you get discouraged at all, you have an awful long way to go in order to keep your interest. And I definitely don't suggest a 1,000-page book to start off your journey with Stephen King. But different seasons is cool. It's a decent size book, but it's 4 stories broken down. Carrie is a reasonably short book. Cycle of the Werewolf is very, very short. It's almost a comic book, which is Silver Bullet. There's a lot of... The Dark Tower is a very short book. There's a lot of cool stuff. And if you want to get into like real short stuff, there's so many books of short stories by him out there. I mean, there's the Bachman books. What else is there? I think 4 Past Midnight is short stories. The Night Shift is another great one. There's a lot of short stories out there. Cujo, I don't believe, was a long book. There's tons and tons and tons of different ways. I mean, I guess it would be according to what you like, right? I mean, if you're already a reader, you don't need to start off with a short book. If you're somebody who, like me, never read a book in his life and decided to start reading Stephen King stuff, you could go to many different ways. Do you like the possession type stuff? Do you like the killer dog type stuff? Do you like... I don't know. There's sci-fi sort of things. Hauntings, vampires. There's so many different avenues that you could go down. IMDb and Wikipedia are wonderful tools to use when you're trying to look stuff up. But I would say, in my opinion, different seasons. You can't go wrong. 4 stories. They're not very long. They're all very good. So... that's my answer. Different seasons. All right. I believe that is all 10 questions. I'm going to get out of here. Now I got to figure out who I'm going to tag. So, I have a really bad habit of just sticking with the people that I know and the people that I know very well. So, I'm going to make it specifically a point not to tag anybody from the Coast to Coast horror stream. I'm pretty sure I know how a lot of you guys feel about this stuff anyway, and I'm sure eventually somehow somebody's going to tag you. These videos are fun to do, so I'm not tagging you just because I want to hear someone else's point of view. So I am going to tag Derek from Old School Shinobi. I want you to answer these 10 questions. I'm familiar with you through the horror community, and I'm familiar with you through chatting back and forth on my videos, but I don't know all that much about you, so I would like to know what your ideas or what your thoughts are on these 10 Stephen King questions. Now I'm going to get out of here. I feel like I'm rambling. I feel like this video has been a mess. I'm going to go now. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that bell. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. and thank you for watching. Later, folks.